Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today I'm going to be talking about energy, and in particular kind of as a free-to-play, one of the biggest things you need to do is maximizing the way that you're utilizing this, your energy, one of the most important resources that I think sometimes players don't recognize how that it is a resource, that it's not, we think of resources as your gear and crystals, but we oftentimes don't think of energy that way. And energy expenditure, in my opinion, is one way that you can really get a huge advantage over your opponents. So we're going to talk about it here. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And of course, we've got to give the shout out to the channel members for all of their continued support of this channel. Again, if you're ever interested in joining, that link is down below as I finally get there. There we go. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support this channel and me. Again, guys, ever interested, that link is below. To my Wampa Jedi Master tier members, thank you guys again. These players, every tier gets special perks. Just some of them can get a little bit more than others. You just have to. Oftentimes, it's really just down to like a DM, so you got to let me know what you're thinking, and I can see what I can do. So, just selling that a little bit. So, let's get into the game here. Let's talk about energy expenditure. So, I made this graphic a while ago, actually. Let me pull it up here. So, I made this graphic a while ago, and it talks about the energy expenditure. And in particular, it goes into what I call the big three, which is regular, cantina, and fleet energy. And that's because those are the big three in my opinion, because those are the ones where you can get character shards. Mods are a completely different ballgame because there's no character shards there. Not that mods aren't an important part of the game, but the thing with mods you've also got to keep in mind is that there's a randomness to it. That if I'm farming if I'm farming Chrysanthemum's node, or I'm farming Fennec's node, or I'm farming 3PO and Chewie's node, the randomness is, okay, is it going to drop me shards? But it's not randomized of the character that I'm getting. It's not this slot machine of, hey, you're going to get this character. I'm getting this character. Yes, the RNG may be off, but I know what I'm going to get if it pulls. When you look at mods, it's a complete slot machine. You could get health primaries, you could get defense, you could get crit damage. And then on top of that, you've got the whole secondaries of what secondaries does that mod drop, and then what secondaries slice on that mod. There's so much randomness to it that it's really hard to encourage lower level players to go crazy with mods, at least crazy with mod refreshes, because it's so randomized. Not that you don't want to pay attention to mods and take advantage of everything that you can with them, but you're going to get far more bang for your early buck if you're focused on trying to get the characters and the gear that you need, and then letting mods kind of naturally come to you. Trust me, guys, this is the method that I used, and it has worked wonders for my account. So again, I'm going to link this down below if you guys want to see it. I had a whole video where I talked about this, and if you guys ever want a refresher, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that. The green highlights are where I feel very strongly about how to spend your crystals. This was just my recommendation based on your crystal spending on energy. But the green highlights are where I feel very strongly about how to spend the energy at that point. So again, just wanted to share this. But talking about energy, you're like, well, Phil, you're kind of saying, okay, do these refreshes, but where do you actually spend that? And that's where I want to spend this video talking about. So, and we're 3 minutes in, I barely got to the topic. So if I just say mods real quick, early on in the game, you want to focus on accumulating mods. You just need the accumulation. You just need the mods themselves. And then as you progress later, you're going to end up switching gears to partially looking at slicing materials to basically always doing slicing materials. It really just depends on the stage of your account there. Mods are, again, completely different beast. Cantina. This one is very straightforward in my opinion. This to me is an all or nothing holo table. That you're either going to go all in on the character that you want to be farming, or you're going to go all in on the signal data that you need. It's just the way I view it. I don't like to split up my farming in Cantina between, hey, I'm going to work on Hondo, and so I'm going to do 2 refreshes on Hondo, and I'm going to do 2 refreshes on signal data. I'm not a big fan of that, particularly because with signal data, I can naturally accumulate that through assault battles. So as you're getting further in the game and you're able to complete those challenge tier 2, challenge tier 3 of assault battles, you get signal data there. You can also get signal data through conquest. You can get signal data through territory battles. So Hondo shards, however, right? Like when you look at Hondo, go over to our buddy. Hondo shards you don't get anywhere else. There's not a random place that he's dropping from. There's not store locations. Every once in a while, he's a reward in like a galactic challenge, but it's not anything crazy. You're not getting a ton of extra shards for him. So in my opinion, you're far better off just trying to go all in on the character or all in on the signal data, and you'll get the most bang for your buck that way. That I think that when you're going through a Galactic Legend farm and you're trying to get Drogon, as you're farming Drogon for Leia, you might be earning signal data through assault battles or through territory battles that you're kind of getting some of that you're just focused on the Drogon shards. Because if you're splitting time between getting Drogon shards and getting signal data, let's say you get enough signal data to get Drogon and he's the last guy that you need, so you got all the signal data, now you're farming his shards. Well, while you're farming his shards, you're probably still accumulating some signal data that you wouldn't have had to farm, and you could have used those refreshes to get character shards. So that's Cantina, right? That's Cantina explained. Now, fleet energy and regular energy are much different beasts, because in the early stages of the game, the Fat Fill approved method would tell you just to completely focus on hard nodes and character shards. The reason, again, being very similar to that Cantina, where you cannot just randomly get shards for these guys very often. There's some characters where you will, but you're not just going to randomly fall into Grief Karga and IG-11 shards. You're not going to randomly fall into, Ninth Sister shards. You're not going to randomly accumulate Skiffguard Lando shards. Maybe he's a login character, and that's great, but you only get, 24 login characters a year? Like, are you really going to bet the farm that you're going to get some shards for Lando? Like, just doesn't make sense. You just have to farm them when you do. So, with some of these characters, you're far better off farming the node, because they don't happen, you don't get them regularly. They don't drop in these places. Whereas gear, when you look at the gear pieces, they do drop randomly, right? You do get gear. When you look at Kyratex here, think of Kyratex. Do you know where you can actually get these things? So when I go here to Marin and I look at Kyratech, so I can earn Kyratech. I mean, there's all these different places. You've got all your crystals, raid currencies, galactic challenges, assault battles, right? You can earn them in territory wars, territory battles. Like, there's a lot of places to get Kyratech. So by trying to focus early in the game on character shards, you're going to be better off, because you can accumulate Kyratech throughout that time. It might not be a crazy amount, but it's going to be better than nothing. And during that time that you were farming those Kyratechs, you didn't get any of the character shards that you needed. So you're much better off trying to use the energy to accumulate those character shards that you need, knowing that gear will kind of naturally pile up in your account. Another way to think of this too is that as you continue to progress your account, like as you finish, and this goes into kind of like a farming guide situation. So if I flip over to the free-to-play farming guide, let me pull this up here. You go to the free-to-play farming guide, and I'm not going to move my fat face this time. I'm just going to scroll down a bit. So when you're looking at, say, like Beskar Armor Mando here, when you're farming Beskar Armor Mando, you've got a bunch of characters who are on regular energy nodes, which is unfortunate, but you got to do what you got to do, right? However, with these guys here, as you finish one of them, right, let's say you finish doing Grief Karga and IG-11 because they share a node, then what you do is you're like, okay, maybe I start fitting in 3PO and Chewie, or I go finish Piet or Bosk, depending on what you are and aren't farming at that point. And let's say you finish those things, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go farm Vulture Droid and get Iden Versio shards at the same time. Or I'm going to move over into Phase 2 here and start farming my Ewoks. This, to me, is the smart move with your regular energy. Don't finish a character and then think that it's immediately onto gear. You want to, the way I've always looked at energy, and I have a video, I really should find it somewhere, but maybe I have to redo it. But my recommendation is that you spend about 300 to 380 energy a day in the later stages of the game. So as you're getting into maybe Phase 3, Phase 4, you get into this point of like 300 to 380 energy a day on character shards. I think early on, you want to focus way more in character shards. But later on in the game, as you're getting into more of those Kyratech-intensive farms, as you've kind of naturally accumulated some character shards through other game modes, like your stores and things, you start needing to invest in gear a little bit. But early on, you can't afford to try and naturally accumulate the shards. You just really need to get the ships itself. And then again, as time progresses, as you're moving on, that's when you switch over to farming, that like spending this much a day on character shards and everything else goes to gear. And the reason I came up with those numbers is I don't think it's smart to just, the reason I say I use numbers instead of, hey, farm 5 characters at all times. I don't think that's necessarily smart. And let me show you why. Do you want to farm 5 characters who are on 20 energy nodes at a time? So you're going to spend, if you do 5 refreshes for each of them, you're looking at 500 energy, right? You're going to spend 500 total energy farming nodes like this, compared to, say, going to Tuscan Raider here, Tuscan Chieftain, where he's a 16 energy node. So now you're looking at only 400 energy, right? You're farming 5 characters, but you're 100 energy less. So that's 100 extra energy to use towards gear. And then finally, if we go down to, Saw Gerrera here, who's on a 12 energy node. Oops, you can't see it because I already farmed him. Who's 12 energy node? Come on. Show me somebody who's on a 12 energy node that I know you are. Come on. I know you are somewhere. Hold on, guys. I got to prove this point, and everybody, of course, is, like, above where they should be. Seer. I think you're 12 energy, right? Beautiful. Yeah, so Seer Junda here. If I farm 5 12 energy nodes, I'm only spending 300 energy a day. So by just looking at the character number, you could be spending anywhere from 300 to 500 energy trying to farm 5 characters or ships at all times. That's not smart. That's not utilizing your resources in a good way, because sometimes you'll be getting way more gear and other times you'll be getting way less, and you won't really have this balance of your gear to your characters. But if you say, hey, I'm going to spend 300 to 380 energy a day, then I can focus entirely the rest of my resources into one category. Now, again, early on, more so into shards. If you're ever in doubt, go more on character shards, because the gear will happen over time. It's far easier to fix a gear deficit than a character shard deficit, because character shards are not as frequent. If I want to get Admiral Radis here, oops, that's profundity. If I want to get shards for Admiral Radis, I'm either going to farm his node or I've got to get really lucky in a pack. So this is my answer here. That's the only place I can get him consistently. So if I need to rush Admiral Radis, I'm stuck on his node. But if I need to rush Kyratex, I can buy them with my legend tokens, which, okay, but like crystals. I can use raid currencies. Like, there's other ways that I can accumulate those Kyratex beyond just farming a node. And that's why I value farming character shards. And if you look at my account, like, I'm almost done with Trip 0. I'm not getting Afra anytime soon, but I try to keep myself farming that amount of, I try to keep myself farming characters, even if I'm not going to be farming them right away or gearing them right now, because I want to continue to progress and get to it. And eventually you'll hit a point like where I am at the fleet energy, where all of my resources just go to gear because I've farmed every single ship. I know that sounds like a long way away for you guys. You're very correct. But how did I get here at this point? I would always replace a ship with something else. So when I would finish my Slave 1, all right, I got my Slave 1. I was spending, got Slave 1. All right, you know what? Time for me to go and farm Anakin's ship. Hey, I finished TIE Advanced. All right, I'm going to go farm TIE Defender. That you move that to the next thing. You move on to the next thing. Instead of taking it saying, hey, I can go farm gear now, start farming the shards for the next ship. Especially ships, because ships take way longer to get than characters. So by trying to continually farm the ships, you're going to be in really good shape. But try to think of it in that light. Don't think of it as a number of things you need to be farming, but think of total energy. And if you're ever in doubt or you're like, man, I really need a bunch of stuff, go with the character shards, knowing that gear naturally happens. So if you get into going for Galactic Legends, Jedi Master Luke, and you look and you need a bunch of characters who are on hard nodes, focus more on the hard nodes and kind of let the gear naturally happen. And then you kind of wrap it up and you're like, okay, I've got my character shards, I'm going to start focusing on gear a little bit more. So you can always add in gear, and you can always rush it with bonus crystals. There's other ways to get it. With the character shards, guys, you've really got to be smart, and that's why you want to just kind of look at it from, I'm going to spend X amount of energy every single day on character shards, and any bonus can go towards gear. And if you do that, I promise you, by the time that you get to 4 million, 5 million in your account, you'll have this really nice balance where you can have all this, if you are out of balance, you could have all these character shards and no gear for them. Or you have all this gear and no character shards. And if you have to ask me which position I'd rather be in the position where I need the gear, because I can rush it in other ways. I can find ways to supplement that. I can't find ways to supplement character shards very often. So That's the advice, guys, and that to me is one of the most important things you can do as a free-to-play, is utilizing these resources to understand that it's better to try to naturally accumulate outside resources, naturally accumulate gear, signal data, even mods, where you can. Mods are a different animal. Pretend mods don't exist for a little bit. That you don't accumulate shards as much as you accumulate gear. So by focusing more on character shards, you're going to end up in a position where your gear kind of will be in a better place overall. And I know it sounds like you're like, Phil, but like if I'm farming, Executor, and I'm looking at regular energy, farming Houndstooth on a 20 energy node, farming, where's, I know there's more ships here. Those are here. That's fine. Where the heck is? So it's 100 energy for Houndstooth. It would be, where's the rest? IG88 is 80 energy. So here you're at 180 already. Then I need to get the Xanadu Blood, which is another 100 energy. So now, Phil, I'm at 280 energy already. And then I still need to get I know it's around here somewhere. TIE Bomber. Come on, where are you at? Ah, there you are. Then I need to get TIE Bomber, Phil. That's another 80 energy. I'm at 360. Yes. You're still, if you can farm those 4 things with your hard nodes, if that's the hard nodes that you're going to be farming for a while, that's only 380 energy or 360 energy, and you're within that frame of where I think the balance exists. So again, I know it sounds like a lot, guys. I hope this video makes sense. Again, like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.